The Sage Archetype. Imagine sitting across from someone who seems to carry the weight of centuries in their eyes, yet their presence fills you with an inexplicable lightness. Their words are few, but each one lands with the gentle authority of truth that has been tested by time. You find yourself drawn to their quiet confidence, the way they seem to know something essential about the world that you're still discovering. But here's what strikes you as strange. The more they reveal their wisdom, the more they seem to embrace how little they truly know. How can someone become wise by constantly acknowledging their ignorance? This is the fundamental paradox of the sage archetype. A figure who gains authority through humility, who teaches by questioning, and who finds certainty in uncertainty. The sage represents our deepest aspiration toward wisdom, yet embodies a way of being that seems to contradict everything we typically associate with knowledge and expertise. Where we expect answers, the sage offers better questions. Where we seek dogma, they provide gentle doubt. The sage somehow manages to be both teacher and eternal student, both guide and fellow traveler on the path of understanding. On one hand, you recognize the sage by their profound understanding of life's complexities. They've seen patterns repeat across decades, witnessed the cycles of human joy and suffering, and developed an almost supernatural ability to see through surface appearances to deeper truths. Their words carry weight because they emerge from genuine experience. On the other hand, the deeper their wisdom becomes, the more comfortable they grow with saying, "I don't know." They seem to understand that true knowledge begins where certainty ends, and that the wisest response to life's biggest questions might be a thoughtful pause rather than a quick answer. You notice this quality in people who have lived through significant challenges and emerged not bitter, but curious. They've learned that life rarely provides the clean explanations we crave. Instead, they've developed what you might call negative capability, the ability to exist in uncertainty without irritably reaching after fact and reason. When you ask them for advice, they don't hand you a solution. They help you discover the right questions to ask yourself. Consider how this wisdom manifests in everyday moments. The sage archetype shows up in the grandmother who listens to your problems without immediately offering solutions, understanding that sometimes you need to voice your thoughts before you can see them clearly. It appears in the mentor who guides not by telling you what to do, but by helping you recognize what you already know deep down. These individuals have learned that real wisdom often involves stepping back rather than stepping forward, creating space for understanding rather than filling silence with certainties. The sage carries a particular relationship with time that sets them apart from other archetypes. While others rush toward the future or cling to the past, the sage dwells in what you might call deep time, a perspective that sees individual moments as part of vast, interconnected patterns. This long view allows them to remain calm during crises that panic others. They've seen how today's catastrophe often becomes tomorrow's forgotten worry, how what seems permanently broken has a way of healing, how endings consistently transform into unexpected beginnings. Yet their relationship with time creates its own paradox. The more deeply they understand the temporary nature of all things, the more present they become to each passing moment. Their awareness of impermanence doesn't make them detached. It makes them more appreciative of whatever is happening right now. They hold their opinions lightly because they know how often perspectives shift. They treasure relationships deeply because they understand how precious and fragile connection truly is. You begin to see how the sage archetype reflects something essential about the nature of consciousness itself. The mind that seeks to understand life finds itself in the peculiar position of being both the observer and the observed, the questioner and the questioned. The sage embodies this recursive mystery. They are aware of their own awareness, conscious of the limits of consciousness, thinking about the nature of thought itself. This creates a kind of philosophical vertigo, a recognition that the tool we use to understand reality is itself part of that reality. This recursive quality shows up in how sages approach learning. They study not just facts and theories, but the process of learning itself. They become curious about their own curiosity. They examine their assumptions while simultaneously questioning their ability to examine assumptions. This might sound like an endless loop, But in practice, it creates a profound humility and openness that allows them to continue growing throughout their entire lives. The sage also carries a unique relationship with suffering that distinguishes them from both the innocent, who has yet to encounter life's difficulties, and the cynic, who has been hardened by them. The sage has walked through pain and emerged neither untouched nor broken, but somehow enlarged. They've learned that suffering, while never welcome, often serves as an unexpected teacher. This doesn't make them masochistic or naive about hardship. Rather, they've developed the capacity to find meaning without needing to find reasons, to accept what they cannot change while continuing to work on what they can. You see this quality in people who have faced loss and discovered resilience they didn't know they possessed. They've learned that healing doesn't mean returning to who you were before. It means integrating your experiences into a larger sense of self. The sage understands that wisdom often emerges not from avoiding difficulties, but from learning to move through them with grace. Perhaps most significantly, the sage archetype embodies a profound acceptance of mystery. In a world that demands explanations for everything, the sage has made peace with the inexplicable. They've learned to be comfortable with questions that have no answers, with problems that cannot be solved, with experiences that resist interpretation. This acceptance doesn't represent intellectual laziness or spiritual bypassing. Instead, it reflects a deep understanding that some aspects of existence transcend human comprehension, and that wrestling with mystery is often more valuable than conquering it. As you consider the sage archetype, you might notice how it asks you to reconsider your relationship with your own learning and growth. Perhaps wisdom isn't about accumulating information or developing unshakable convictions. Maybe it's about cultivating the capacity to remain open, curious, and responsive to whatever life presents. The sage reminds us that the goal isn't to become someone who has all the answers, but to become someone who can live gracefully with the questions. The path of the sage, then, isn't about reaching a destination where understanding becomes complete. It's about learning to walk with uncertainty as a companion rather than an enemy, to treat every experience as a teacher worth listening to, and to hold our knowledge lightly enough that it can continue to evolve. It's not about solving the paradox of wisdom and ignorance. It's about noticing how beautifully they dance together, each one making the other more profound and more necessary.